Hi everyone, it's Aaron here from Pi Supply, and in today's video we're going to take a look at the JustBoom DAC cape. The JustBoom DAC cape is a digital to analog converter for the BeagleBone. This works with the BeagleBone Black, the BeagleBone Black Wireless, and a variety of other BeagleBones. As long as it's got the 46-pin header on each side, it should work with your BeagleBone. You can see on the side of the box here, it says compatible with BeagleBone Original, Black, Green, and Enhanced. Those are the currently available models, but as I said, as long as it's got that 46-pin header on both sides, it should work in the future as well. So just bear that in mind when you're buying this product, that you've checked in advance that it will work. We'll maintain an up-to-date list on our website, so if you take a look there, if you're unsure whether it will work, just take a look on the website, and if you're still struggling to work it out, just feel free to ping us an email, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. So yeah, let's take a look at the DAC cape. So there's quite a few bits and bobs inside the box here. Just get those all out. Oh, there's a few more in there. Yeah, that's all good. So we've got quite a few bits in here, as you can see. So to start with, we've got the JustBoom stickers. You can see there. So those are just for you to stick on whatever you want, but make sure you send us some pictures of where you stuck them, and on the back of your laptop, on your bedroom door, or wherever you feel like. And then we've got the JustBoom Getting Started info card here. You can see on the back we've got the domain name there, justboom.co/start. If you go to that link, there's a load of information about the software you can use with it, getting started guides, how to get them into the cases, all sorts of stuff like that. So it is a really useful resource, that. So we'll stick the link in the description of the video, and you can take a look at that and get loads more info on the product, as well as like more technical info. So we're going to go through a bit of technical info on how the board works and everything like that. But there is going to be like a load more information that we can't easily speak about in the video on that website. So just take a look at there when you get a chance, or if you're looking for any kind of technical info. So you'll see here we've got a bag of mounting hardware. That's just to basically connect the BeagleBone to the DAC cape, keep it nice and secure. So I'll stick that there. We don't need that for now. And then you've got the board. So we've got the anti-static bag here, which has just got the DAC cape board inside. It's just to keep it safe, make sure that there aren't any short circuits or anything like that when it's in transit. So just be a bit careful when you pop that out there. It kind of gets a bit stuck on the connectors when you're taking it out, so just take it out gently. And then that's the JustBoom DAC cape. So you can see on the underside we've got a 46-pin header there. We only use the one side because we don't need that many pins. We only need the I2S audio output pins. So it's just that the one header there, and on the other side it's blank. So that's fine. And then you can see on this top side there's quite a lot of components on that side. And we'll run through those now, what those all do. So you can see on the board here, we've got this chip here. This is the DAC chip. So this basically converts the digital audio signal coming from the header of the BeagleBone. That converts that to the analog output and sends it out to the outputs. So that's kind of the core chip that runs the board. You've got here an EEPROM, which is this little chip here. And that just identifies the board to the BeagleBone and allows it to kind of set up all the drivers and necessary sort of Linux stuff that gets it going without you having to make too many changes to the software configuration. So as I say, it identifies the board, so you can see that it's a JustBoom board, and it normally has like a serial number in there as well. So that's that. You can then see there's a little black chip here. And that chip there is the headphone amplifier. So we've got a 138 milliwatt headphone amplifier on board, which connects in through the 3.5mm headphone jack just here. And what that allows you to do is it takes that line level input from the DAC and amplifies it slightly, just so that you can use it with some decent headphones. And as I say, it's 138 milliwatts, so it gets a good volume on the headphones. Obviously, if you want something going to some speakers, you're going to want to use the line level and use some powered speakers, or send it into your AV receiver or amplifier and just amplify it, much higher. Or alternatively, you can plug in one of our JustBoom amps on top and secure that in place, and then you'll have the ability to amplify it directly as well. So just quite a few options we've got in there for you. You can see on the board here, we've got these two big connectors. So I'm guessing a lot of you will have seen these kind of connectors before. They're RCA connectors. So that's the main audio outputs. So they're line level RCA outputs. So there's no amplification in there, and you're going to need to send that to an amplifier or AV receiver that can amplify the signal and then send it out to some speakers. Or alternatively, if you've got a set of active speakers where they've got the amplifier built into the speakers, you can send that out through there as well. And as I say, you can also use that 3.5mm. That is slightly amplified, but if you're using a kind of like portable speaker or something like that, it probably tends to have a 3.5mm jack input, so it might be easier to use that. But because it's pre-amplified, it might just reduce the quality a little bit. So just bear that in mind in your setup. So you can see here there's like a big header there of pins, which are all empty. So the reason for that is basically we have obviously soldered all of the pins of the header there, meaning that if you want to use that same header for other purposes, you can't so easily. So the reason for that header there is that it just gives you access to those pins. So if you want to add some sensors or other devices to your BeagleBone, you've got access to that header. So you can either solder like a 46-pin header into there, or just use individual pins, solder wires directly in. So it just gives you a bit of flexibility in your use case and allows you to add stuff like that. So you can also see on the board here, we've got a little kind of like weird looking connector here. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it almost looks like kind of like teeth almost on the board. So that connector is basically to allow you to connect the amplifier on top, which I mentioned briefly earlier. But we have, it's not ready yet, but we're going to have a standalone amplifier that can connect on top of the board there. We've got a very similar thing for the DAC hat called the JustBoom amp, which can go on top of the DAC hat for the Raspberry Pi and just give it the amplified output. Because the layout is slightly different for the DAC cape, that won't actually work on top of this board, but we're going to make a very similar one that will work in the future. So if you are interested to have additional amplifier capabilities as part of one package, then do keep an eye out for that board. There's no particular timeline yet, but at some point in the future we should be releasing that, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And then the other interesting thing on the board that you'll be able to see is this 3-pin header here. So with that one, it's, I think it even says on there, yeah, IR, so infrared. So that's an infrared receiver for this board. Now that actually connects straight into the BeagleBone's GPIO pins. So the idea behind that is that obviously a lot of audio or like multimedia applications, you're going to want to control the video or audio, volume, change track, that kind of thing. So it really lends itself really nicely to having an infrared remote control. And the neat thing with the BeagleBone, Raspberry Pi microcontroller platforms like that is that they have a piece of software called LIRC, L-I-R-C, and that basically allows you to connect pretty much any infrared remote into Linux, and that's really nice because it means We do sell our own remotes, and we'll put the links for those in the description. But what it means is you can use existing remotes to control your new hardware. So you buy this board, you buy the BeagleBone, or you've got one already, and you put it all together. You can actually control this system using that infrared receiver with an existing remote control. So just a really nice flexible way to add control to the system as well. So with that, we will provide one of these with every board. It's a little infrared receiver, and you can see it there. It's like a little black thing with 3 legs. And you can see there's a semi-spherical part on the front there, and that's going to want to face out on the board. And you can actually see on the PCB here, there's a little white outline that kind of shows you which direction it should be. So as it shows on there, you want the sort of semi-spherical part to be facing out towards the edge of the board. So you just line up the three legs of the infrared receiver, and you stick those in the holes, and that's how it would sit on the board, like that. So you'd then kind of flip it over, and you'd want to solder that in with a soldering iron. So it is a bit more involved than just plug and play, but we don't add that because some people don't want that to be in there because it does use up some of the GPIO pins. So we leave that as an optional part. We will have a tutorial on how to solder that into the board. So do keep an eye out for that video, and we'll have tutorials about that as well. So just take a look at those, or if you can't find the right details, do just send us an email. But it's relatively easy. It's only 3 pins, so to be honest, even if you're even if you've never soldered before, it shouldn't be that hard for you to actually do that. It'd probably be a 15-20 minute job if you've never soldered before. If you're experienced at soldering, it might take you 2 minutes. So it's quite easy to actually stick that in there. So I'll put that to one side for now. But yeah, it just adds that additional ease of use really for a multimedia application. So we wanted to add that in there. So now let's take a look at the BeagleBone, and we'll take a look at attaching this to the BeagleBone and then also attaching the mounting hardware. So I'll just stick that over here for now, and we'll grab the BeagleBone. So you can see we've got the BeagleBoard Black wireless here. It's pretty much identical to the BeagleBone Black, the only difference being that it's got the wireless capability as well. So we only really need the board. So I'll pop everything else back in the box there. We've now got the board here. It's just in a little anti-static bag. We'll just need a pair of scissors to just snip the top off there. So take that board out. That's just a little silica gel thing to keep the moisture down in the board. So they've got the BeagleBone Black wireless. So if you've never seen a BeagleBone before, it's just a little single board computer, very similar to the Raspberry Pi, Arduino, things like that. So it's most similar to Pi. It's got a slightly different processor, things like that, but it can run Linux. So yeah, just a really nice single board computer, and fully open source as well. So the chips are all Texas Instruments chips, and it's all kind of funded by Texas Instruments, but it's like an open source ARM, so it's kind of like charitable thing. So it's a really, really nice board. And if you ever do want to kind of like build a bigger application with BeagleBone, the nice thing is because it's all open source, you can actually take all the files and just make your own hardware. So you're not restricted to just buying their one. So just again, a neat little feature that you don't get with the Raspberry Pi. So you can see there's 2 little, I'll show it up to the camera there. You can see there's 2 little antennas here, kind of like little wires. That's basically, you wouldn't see that on the BeagleBone Black. You'll only see that on the wireless because you've got the wireless chip here, and then those are the 2 antennas for the wireless chip. So you can have them facing in or facing out, it doesn't really matter, but you know, that you can just, whatever's easiest. If you're putting it in a case or something, you might want to have them facing out, so just bear that in mind. But so yeah, I won't go into too much detail on the BeagleBone because there's so much info on it online already that we're really looking at the DAC cape today, but it's, as I say, really great little computer. So what you want to do is you've got the JustBoom cape here, and you've got the BeagleBone. You can see that it's got, it could kind of almost go two ways, as it's kind of quite symmetrical. But if you look on the boards, you can see that the kind of radius on the corner at the top here is slightly more than at the bottom, which has got less of a radius. So you want them to be stacked on top of each other that way round. So just make sure you have where that kind of hole is, you've got that on the side of the power connector. Now you'll see in this board here, we've got a big cutout there. You're probably wondering what that's for. Now on the normal BeagleBone without wireless, it's actually got an Ethernet adapter there, which sticks up quite high through the board. So we've got that cutout there, so that Ethernet connection can pop through the board. But obviously on this one, because it's wireless, you don't have that Ethernet connector there. So it just makes it look like it's weird having that hole, but it is actually for a reason. So with the boards, you want to now grab the mounting hardware. So we've got the mounting hardware in this little Ziploc bag here. The mounting hardware for the BeagleBone is M3, so I think the Raspberry Pi is M2.5. So if you're used to using the Raspberry Pi, it is actually different size mounting hardware, so you won't be able to chop and change between the two. So just bear that in mind. And again, that's why we provide that with there. So you'll see you've got two mounting posts. They look like sort of just really tall version of like a normal sort of screw nut, and then we've got 4 screws there. So I always find it easiest to attach these to the main board first. So what you want to do is get one of the screws and just pop that through the bottom of the board, like so. Hold that in there with one of your fingers. Grab one of the mounting posts, stick that on top, and just try and get that to screw onto the screw. It's a little bit fiddly, so it might take you a bit of time, and especially with these nylon ones, they can cross thread a bit sometimes. They're not as good as the metal ones sometimes in terms of actually getting it right on the threads, because they're a bit flexible. So just get that to thread, and once it threads, you'll feel it being a lot easier. And just do that up by hand until that's reasonably tight by hand. We'll tighten everything up later with a screwdriver, but just get that as tight as you can. Now, what we want to do on this one, there's only 2 posts, so what we want to do is do it on the side opposite to where the header's going to connect, because the header obviously provides some support already on the side of the DC jack, but on the other side you haven't got any support, so you want to add those onto that side. So we'll grab another screw, pop that into the other screw on that side, and again just try and get that threaded in nicely. And there we go. So they're relatively tight. So that's all done on that side now. So now what you want to do is get the 2 boards, line up the pins, pretty simple, and then just grab it on each side and just push down with a fair amount of force, just to make sure that header is really nice and secure in there. You can see there's no gap there, and on the other side it's meeting quite nicely with the mounting posts on that side. So once that's done, you just need to get the other screws, pop those in, and then grab a screwdriver and just tighten those up. They're only nylon, so they're not super strong, so just do them up hand tight until they're nice and secure and they're not going to go anywhere, and that should be fine. And then just pop that over the other side, and we obviously only did these up by hand, so you might just want to make sure those are nice and secure on the other side as well. So there we have it. That's you can see nicely mounted on that side, and the same on the other side, so it's not going anywhere. It's really nice and secure on that board there. So that's pretty much it with the DAC cape, sorry. And you can basically now just plug in the power. Obviously on the BeagleBone, you've got the ability to use the DC jack, or you can use the micro USB input for power. This DAC cape will actually be powered by the GPIO pin, over the GPIO pins. So you only need the one power supply going into the BeagleBone, and that will power the DAC cape as well. And that includes both the DAC and the headphone amplifier. So just keeps it nice and neat. We have got some cases available for the setup. So that will work with any of the BeagleBone boards with the 46 pins on each side. So as I said, the BeagleBone Black Wireless, the green, and various other ones. So as long as you can connect that in, that should work with the cases. So we've got the one for the JustBoom DAC cape that works with that. You can pop that in, just makes it look a bit nicer, not just bare boards. So just bear that in mind. If you're looking for a case, we do have some available. And then, yeah, again, if you've never used a BeagleBone before, you can program that to have you can have the software for that on an SD card, or you can actually have it on board. It's got eMMC flash on board, so you can actually have the software loaded onto it. With the Raspberry Pi, if you've used the Raspberry Pi before, you've obviously got to have that on an SD card, or having it coming over Ethernet or USB. Whereas on this, you've actually got that inbuilt eMMC, with just a little bit more reliable over a long term period than an SD card. So you've got the two options there. So inside as I said, we don't want to go too much into the BeagleBone today, but inside there you've got a cable, a little USB cable that can plug into there. That allows you to program the eMMC flash, or you can just pop an SD card in there as well. We normally would recommend that for like longer term installations, once you're sure the software's working fine, it's much more reliable to use the onboard eMMC. But if you're just testing out new bits of software or something, the SD card works just fine. So that's no problem at all. And as I said, I showed you the card earlier. It's got the justboom.co/start webpage on there. If you go to that page, you'll be able to find a link which will take you to more info about the DAC cape. And it'll tell you all the software you can use, how you can get it up and running with the BeagleBone. But the drivers for our boards are officially supported in the BeagleBone software now. So it should be really easy for you to just load those drivers with the EEPROM. It should just auto start straight away, and the drivers will be loaded. So keeps it nice and simple, plug and play. And because of that, typically those drivers tend to filter down into other software. So I know there's some people out there who make audiophile or media center software for the BeagleBone. Those drivers, if the software's been updated quite recently, those drivers should already be in there. So it should be pretty plug and play. But again, if you do have any questions or queries, just send us an email and we'll be more than happy to help. But yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope this has been useful, and we'll see you in the next video.